We have a very exciting show today, and like the stuff that we have in store today, our music, our friends, and certainly our special guest that we're going to get to right away, Mallory.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. Michael Lucid, welcome to the show.
Me. I'm so happy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Now, of course, I know, and I'm sure our audience, but in case anybody out there doesn't know, you are the director of the cult classic documentary Dirty Girls.
Yes. This was my documentary I filmed in high school. I filmed the footage in 1996 as a high school senior, and then the version that's now the completed documentary I finished in the year 2000 in college, and I showed it in some film festivals in 2000, and then put it away for 13 years. It was just on a VHS tape in a box, and then in 2013, a friend of mine, or he became my friend. He reached out. His name is Bradford Nordine, and he ran runs a festival called Dirty Looks. Back in 2000, it was in the New York Underground Film Festival. It was in it did some like LGBT festivals, like the Mix Festival and Outfest in LA and Frameline in San Francisco. And then I was like, okay, that's all, and we'll just like put it away. I was like, that, all done with that. And maybe once in a while I would like bring out the tape and show some friends, like, oh, I made this documentary in 2000, like, check this out, and I just show people. And then, and then in 2013, when I Bradford Nordine found a mention of Dirty Girls in an old film festival program for the Mix Festival from back in 2000, and he reached out to me. He contacted me on social media and said, can you upload this to YouTube just because I want to see it? And that'd be the easiest way for me to see the footage if you can just upload it. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I can digitize the VHS. And so I did all that, uploaded it. And full disclosure, I did have an inkling of an idea. I was like, this could catch on. So I did. I put it on Tumblr. And that was the height of Tumblr.
Oh my God, I miss Tumblr
Love
so
Tumblr.
much.
Right? Oh my gosh.
Of course, this is perfect for Tumblr.
It's such a culture center. Tumblr was really.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Totally.
Very, very cool. Okay, so then it goes on Tumblr.
And I did like hashtag grunge, hashtag 90s, hashtag riot girl. And it literally within a week, it suddenly like blew up, and it was from Tumblr.
Of course.
Yeah.
What a beautiful origin story.
Totally. It totally was
God.
a beautiful joining of the YouTube and Tumblr and Dirty Looks Film Festival, and it all just came together to bring.
And so then just recently I saw that it has acquired 5 million views, right? Am I correct? 5 million views on YouTube, which is just incredible. And I mean, so far reaching, and it doesn't surprise me at all. Because very personally to me, when I watched this documentary for the first time, and I must have found, it must have been one of the first YouTube videos that I was like, what the fuck, whenever I found it on there. And I watched it several times, and it was like watching me and my friends. It is such a perfect capsule of a moment in time. And I was in Gladstone, Missouri, nowhere near. And this was in Santa Monica, right? You said?
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Santa Monica.
So like, how interesting to begin with that these identifying features pre-internet were just somehow they grew at the same time, like this emergent fashion style and attitude and making zines. And well, you were on the ground and you were actually in high school. Yeah. What was the temperature? How did it feel there?
Hear why you had the idea to film these girls at your school, like what it was like, what it felt like. Would love to hear the conceit of all of this.
Yeah, it's such a funny kind of origin story for that. The reason why I filmed it, Because I was a high school senior in 1996, and at the school Crossroads, which is in Santa Monica, California, and it's kind of notorious because it's known for being kind of this wealthy, artsy private school that's built in an alleyway, so it looks very like. Like to look at it, at least back then, to look at it, just looked like an industrial alley. Like it used to be like factories or something or warehouses. And they turned it into this like very fancy art high school. And it was known for having lots of celebrities and lots of decadence. There was exposés. I think it was Vanity Fair when I was still there. It wrote this expose about the outrageous. Yeah, it's so crazy.
What?
Totally. It had this.
You were destined to be a star, baby. Come on. Vanity Fair High School.
Well,
God, I want to read that. I want to read that fan magazine.
Oh, I need to track that article.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so then it was an exceptional place, and even still, honestly, that surprises me even more because you think that in an exceptional environment like that, I would have thought as a kid, I was dreaming as a kid out in LA, out in New York, I would find my people. They would understand me, I wouldn't want to whatever, not true. Same shit. Same shit. Isn't that funny? Everywhere. Isn't that funny?
Like I was just 18 in March of that year, and
wow.
Yeah.
So you were 18 and these girls were like what, 15, 16, right? They're freshmen in high school.
Younger even. That's
like
the other thing.
14.
What? 13, 14?
Even 12, I think some of them. Like,
oh my God, crazy. I love them so much. Okay, so like you were there. What was the temperature like? Like was it very, very catty? Was it? Paint me a picture, please.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Well, and the irony is that so many of the kind of the detractors of the Dirty Girls were my friends. These were my friends. And the thing, I think that's why I feel so comfortable. I had this access as a documentary filmmaker, who I just had become through making this. I had like the best unlimited access to everyone because they were friends of mine. So they totally felt at ease. It's like, sorry guys, I'll apologize to them now. Sorry and thank you. Sorry and thank you so much, because their honesty, is what makes what they said so dramatically impactful,
Totally. Yeah. You got like real honesty. From everybody, from the Dirty Girls and from everybody talking about them. I think that's a thing in that trailer that it's mostly cuts of like how people were talking about them. And like that, I think it just like says so much of like how much people were thinking about them and assuming about them and stuff. And yeah, I
remember there was a girl in my clique who was very, very cool, but she was really into Ani DeFranco, and I was really not into Ani DeFranco. Like that was not my thing, right? And so I was very condescending to a lot of like the zines that came by, and the reason why I'm projecting that, and I apologize. You know who you are if you ever listen. I just apologized for shitting on Ani DeFranco in high school. Oh, whoa, the world has come full circle.
I think it's nice.
Yeah, it is. You know who you are. We eat our own. I also remember like going to punk clubs and like the punk kids being like, "Where are your patches?" And them being like, "You're not a real punk." And I was like, "Fuck you, I'm Minutemen punk." The Minutemen fans will get it. Yeah. Anyway. So like, what did you see them hate on other people in a similar type of way? Or was it just directed at these precocious youths with attitudes?
That's interesting. Yeah, I feel like the interesting thing, it's almost like everyone at the school was united in making fun of the Dirty Girls. It was like, that was the unifying. And the funny thing was that, and they really were, these Dirty Girls really were truly the talk of the campus. Everyone was talking about them. It was like the gossip. It was like the hot campus gossip. Literally, that was, at lunch or, during, the morning snack break, people were talking about it. And I think it's so ironic because a lot of the fashions that a lot of the older kids were wearing didn't look so different from the Dirty Girls.
Right?
It's identical.
I was thinking that. I mean, anytime I watch it, it's so interesting to see the ways they still like separate themselves. When I'm like, oh, you all are kind of like dressing the same. That was like the fashion of the time, But I think for me, then it's like, is it really what the intention of the fashion was, for the Dirty Girls? Because I'm
it was anti-fashion.
Well, exactly. Exactly. And I'm remembering the moment with I think it's Harper her friends are talking about like, oh, if you'd seen her a few years ago, how she used to dress, that like, I imagine that it was, their peers seeing them change and like actively, move and dress against, how they were expected to. And that I feel like that could be where some attention would come from, is like that they went from sort of like participating in this, like they were talking about like wearing polos and, this sort of this style, and then distinctly not doing that.
Yeah, that's so true. I love that. That's so true. I think that people were, observing that transformation and people were sort of fascinated by that. And I think the other thing was that these younger girls were, while all the older kids were also wearing like vintage clothes and secondhand store clothes and things, which is what the Dirty Girls were wearing. And that was the fashion of the time. It was all about vintage, in the early mid to late 90s. I think also the Dirty Girls had this kind of ethos or this philosophy, and the fact that they were so precocious at such a young age and so much younger than everyone else. I think there was sort of this sense of like, who do they think they are? They're in 8th grade. Like they don't know what they're talking about, how could they? And so I think that was sort of a big part of the reaction, that negative kind of backlash they were experiencing from the kids in my year.
How was it that bullies were calling us dirties and they were also calling them dirties in Santa Monica? First of all, what a shitty like name to just put on a group, like not even creative.
No.
And we weren't dirty. We had that argument all the time. I'm clean. I bathe all the time. I just look like shit. Fuck you. Totally. That was kind of it.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I think and totally the same for the Dirty Girls, that I would say 99% of the time they bathed. And there were just those, of course. And then there were those infamous days when they were like, basically it was almost like the absurdists or something in Paris from previous eras, like, just staging a public prank, if you will, like a performance piece almost. Like they mentioned in the documentary that there was people would kind of on campus remember these infamous pranks, like the day when the Dirty Girls came to school with lipstick all over their faces. And that was fully intentional by them. First of all, kind of a Riot Girl political statement. Second of all, to amuse themselves and to, cause a stir. And they, that's so, punk rock. And they were, in middle school. And
we did the exact same type of thing. We passed out condoms outside of the Sadie Hawkins Day dance. We gifted the prom king like bull's brain. And yeah, it was very nonsensical stuff, but we felt very punk about it. And it was absurdist. It felt very much like we don't care enough to like hurt your feelings or put you in your place. You're too stupid. But we want to like laugh at you and do something so obscene that like you're like, what? Oh, dude, bro, it's cool. You're cool. We definitely had those friends, you know, like I had a bunch of like senior jocks that were like tapping me in the balls, you know, as I walked up the stairs at school. And I'm like, I'm not really one of you. And I don't know what got me the pass, but I openly am loudly making fun of you. And you think that we're buddies, you know? Does that ring a bell? That type of dynamic? Yeah.
Oh, it's very that. Yeah, it's like the irony, the levels of irony getting completely missed. And like,
yeah.
And I think, yeah. And instead of people seeing that the Dirty Girls were trying to do something, you know, and make a statement like that, it just sort of solidified into the rumor. The Dirty Girls don't bathe, and they don't bathe, and they put lipstick on their faces. So the takeaways were just the bullet notes, or the bullet points of these pranks they were pulling, and that became it got mythologized as like, oh, that's who they are, as opposed to, oh, they're actually riot girls who are doing these specific performances on campus.
Yeah,
so sick.
It is so sick. And I think that's why like it's so cool that this is having a bit of a resurgence, and that like for me it feels like I think the first time I saw it was like a few years ago. It felt like retroactively healing for me, given that I went to a very small private school. Like the like weird kids there were not even close to like I didn't have access to any counterculture shit until I grew up and moved away. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what feels so radical about this. And I imagine, I wish, like, I want to ask you this after this, like, if you're still in connection with any of these other friends, you know, who like go back and watch it, because to me, watching like the Dirty Girls, so that other people called them that, you know, like they were doing them and other people gave them that I'm going to keep coming back to this, like that it's a private school and wealth, that is like these teenagers and kids using the language of like classism and like hierarchy in that way as a way of like ostracizing these girls that are doing something very radical. Like they weren't actually dirty, but when you are in like white, wealthy circles, that's like the worst thing you can be called, you know, that like being dirty, unkempt, you know, is like the most blasphemous thing you can do in those circles. So that's why what they did was radical as fuck. And of course, the teenagers and kids there are using the language, I imagine, of that they're hearing from their parents, you know, probably their parents who might use that against like immigrants or people of color, like poor, you know, like it all feels like a part of that, like, you know, that is white rich structure. You know,
absolutely. You are so right. You are so fucking right. It declassifies it. No matter who your father was, you look like scumbag, and we know what scumbags are. They're not from this neighborhood. Why you let your kid look like that?
Exactly.
My parents got that shit all the time. You know, I like, it's so funny. I remember being kicked out of somebody's house that I came over to dinner because I had fingernail polish on. Times have changed, but also like, yeah, but also not right. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
I know.
Well,
really. And that's so interesting, too, is the way times haven't changed. And I think that's so interesting and why people are still connecting with it now, because it's kind of unfortunate that times have not changed. But it's like, oh, no, these, you know, what was happening in 1996 is still timely today.
So
oh, my God.
Relevant.
Wait, I just got very optimistic. Does that mean that the Riot Girls are going to save the day again?
Yes.
I think so.
Crossing my fingers.
I think that the Riot Girls win. I always knew it. Burn all the prisons and let the prostitutes take over.